friend. Tonight, let's join a gallant young crewman aboard a doomed U-boat in the middle of the cold, black Atlantic Ocean during the height of World War II. As if being confined to a submarine wasn't bad enough, he soon discovers that his vessel may soon turn into his tomb. So now sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. And don't forget to keep the lights on.
I've always been able to hear things others cannot. That's why they put me on sonar. It's a skill, or a curse, I've carried with me all my life. Even as a child, I'd lie awake at night in the dark, the silence pressing down, only to hear the faintest of whispers in the distance. A house settling, water running through pipes, voices from somewhere I couldn't place. My mother thought I had an overactive imagination. I think perhaps my imagination was never active enough. In the bowels of this submarine, my ears are the lifeline of the crew. There are 23 of us on board the U-613, patrolling these cold black waters. We haven't surfaced in days. Maybe it's been weeks, but time means nothing down here. It's a different world, one where the sun doesn't exist, where the sound of the ocean is all that matters. I sit alone in the sonar room, my headphones pressed tight against my skull, my eyes trained on the sonar screen. A green line pulses rhythmically across it, its repetitive cycle the only constant in this world of darkness. Most of the time, the sounds are familiar. The hum of our engines, the distant churn of enemy propellers slicing through the water, the occasional whale's call, predictable, safe. But lately, something else has been creeping through the static. Faint sounds I can't explain. Echoes like whispers bouncing off the walls of my mind. No one else can hear them. I've asked the others, but they shake their heads, dismissing it as overwork. They joke that I'm losing it. Maybe they're right. Still, there's something out there. The sea is vast, yes, but it's also quiet, or at least it should be. When you spend enough time down here, you learn its moods, you hear its movements, its shifts. And lately, it's wrong. There's something beyond the normal sway of the waves, some presence lurking beneath the surface. The noises are faint, irregular, but unmistakable, as if something is watching us, something we can't see. The captain doesn't believe me. He tells me to focus, to stop chasing ghosts. But I've never heard anything like this before, not in all my time as an operator. It's almost as if the ocean is breathing. And the sound, it's growing louder. I want to tell the captain again, but what can I say? There are no enemy ships nearby, no whale song or underwater volcano, no logical explanation. What do I tell him? That I've heard something calling? That it's not a ship, but something else, something that shouldn't be down here? No, he wouldn't listen. No one would. So, I keep quiet. I listen, I wait. And all the while, the pressure builds, not just on the submarine, but on my mind. And as the days stretch into nights, the line between the two begins to blur. The thing about the deep is that it plays tricks on you. When you've been underwater long enough, without sunlight, without fresh air, time becomes meaningless. You lose your sense of days and nights. Your mind starts filling in the gaps. Little flickers at the corner of your vision that aren't really there. A twitch in your muscles, the echo of a voice. Or worse, you start to imagine the submarine itself breathing, the hull bending and creaking, as though it's alive and straining against the pressure. That's when you start to slip. I wonder if I've started to slip. Those noises, they're still there. No, they're worse. What used to be faint and occasional is now persistent, a steady hum that has wrapped itself around the sonar like a shroud. They're not random sounds either. There's something rhythmic about them, like a pattern, a sequence. I swear there are voices in there, whispers that float up from the depths and scatter just as quickly. They remind me of the way water moves, how it swirls and surges, always there but just out of reach. I haven't told anyone else. I can see it in their eyes. They're losing focus too. The captain paces more than usual, and the rest of the crew is jumpy. We've had to dive deeper to avoid the enemy patrols, and it's messing with everyone. The pressure's higher than it should be, and the constant hum of the engines feels more like a heartbeat now. It's not just me. I can see the strain on their faces. It doesn't help that we've been having mechanical issues. First, it was just the lights flickering, the kind of thing we could ignore, something we could explain away with faulty wiring. But then the engines started acting up. The repairs were supposed to be quick, but it's like the sub's fighting us, refusing to cooperate. We keep sinking lower, and every time we try to ascend, something goes wrong. A malfunction, a power fluctuation, a leak. Just bad luck, the captain said. We'll fix it. But the looks between the crew say otherwise. They know it's more than bad luck. It feels like something's pulling us down. I've been spending more time at the sonar station, trying to make sense of it all. The sonar has always been my refuge, a place where I can shut out the world and focus on the echoes. But now, it's turning against me. The noises are getting louder, closer. I've adjusted the sensitivity, trying to isolate the source, but it's useless. The sound is everywhere, surrounding us, like the ocean itself has come alive and is squeezing tighter and tighter. Yesterday I thought I heard it more clearly than ever before. A voice. Not a human voice, not exactly, but something too close to be a coincidence. It wasn't a word in any language I know, but it was. Intonation. A rise and fall, as though something down there was calling out. Maybe it's just my mind playing tricks again, or maybe I'm catching some strange underwater phenomenon, but it won't leave me alone. The voice lingers, repeating in my head long after I've taken off the headphones. Sleep is getting harder. I can hear the voice in my dreams now, low and distorted, like it's being filtered through miles of crushing water. I wake up sweating, heart pounding in my chest. The first thing I do every morning is check the sonar, convinced I'll see something. But there's never anything there, only the sound, only the voices. Today, things got worse. The sub groaned like a wounded animal, louder than I've ever heard. The metal screamed against the pressure, and for a moment, I thought we'd been hit. But there was no explosion, no impact, just the awful sound of metal twisting in on itself, as if the submarine had come alive and was curling up into a ball. The crew rushed around, frantic, trying to pinpoint the problem, but no one could find the source. The noise in my ears was deafening. I couldn't hear anything else, couldn't focus. It felt like the whole ocean was pressing against me, against the hull, against my skull. The voices were there again, louder, more insistent. I had to press my hands against my head to keep from screaming. "We're fine," the captain said afterward, trying to calm everyone down. "A minor fluctuation. We'll make it through." But I can see it. The same tension is gnawing at all of us. We've been underwater too long. We're too deep. Something is wrong, but no one wants to say it out loud. And all the while, that sound keeps growing, like a shadow creeping in from the edges. I keep telling myself it's just an echo, that the ocean plays tricks. But deep down, I know better. There's something out there, something that's been waiting for us. And it's getting closer. We've stopped ascending. The engines sputtered out early this morning, and for the last several hours, we've been at the mercy of the ocean's pull. It's slow but steady, the pressure increasing by the minute, and with every creak of the hull, I can feel the weight of the water crushing down on us. We're sinking deeper than we should be, too deep for any comfort. The captain is doing his best to keep the crew calm, but the tension is electric. Everyone knows what happens to a submarine that sinks too low. The walls are closing in. I can feel it. There's no mistaking the pressure now. The metal groans constantly, a low, mournful sound that vibrates through my bones. It feels alive, like the submarine is a living thing being slowly crushed to death. The lights flicker more often, casting long, eerie shadows across the narrow corridors. The air smells stale, the kind of thick, metallic scent that seeps into your lungs and settles there. We've sealed off some of the compartments to conserve oxygen, but even that won't save us if we keep descending. The sonar has been my only distraction, but even that has turned against me. I sit at my station, headphones pressed against my ears, and listen. It's always the same now, the faint, rhythmic pulse, the steady thrum of something just out of reach. It's louder than it was before, clearer, as if the deeper we sink, the closer we get to its source. And the whispers, they're constant. I can't shut them out anymore. I try to focus on my job, on detecting enemy ships or obstacles in our path, but it's impossible. Every time I close my eyes, I see the green line of the sonar, pulsing like a heartbeat, growing slower and heavier as we sink. The voices follow me everywhere, in my sleep, in my waking moments. They've become a part of me, an echo that's taken root deep in my mind. No one else hears them. They still think it's just the ocean playing tricks, or maybe they've stopped caring. The crew has grown quieter, more withdrawn. Everyone is afraid, but no one wants to say it. I can see it in their eyes. The same dread that's gnawing at me is gnawing at them too. We're all just waiting for the inevitable, waiting for the moment when the pressure becomes too much and the hull gives in. Yesterday, we tried one last time to restart the engines, to ascend, but it was hopeless. The captain ordered another dive to avoid what he thought was an Allied destroyer, but now we're stuck. Every time the engineers think they've fixed the engines, something else goes wrong. It's like the submarine is sabotaging itself, refusing to move, dragging us down with it. I can hear it in the metal, the way it groans and shifts, as though it's trying to tell us something. The creaks and moans are almost musical now, a warped, discordant symphony that echoes through the hull. I'm starting to think that maybe the submarine doesn't want to surface, that it's accepted its fate and is dragging us with it. Or worse, that it's being pulled down by something far more powerful than the ocean's current. I try to tell myself that it's just the pressure, just the way the metal behaves at these depths. But the voices, they're clearer than ever. Not just whispers now, but murmurs, as if they're speaking to me, calling me. I can't make out the words, but the tone is unmistakable. It's not human. It never was. It's something older, something deeper. I don't tell the others. They wouldn't understand. They'd think I've lost my mind. Maybe I have. But there's something down here with us. I know it. I can feel it. The deeper we sink, the closer it gets. Today, for the first time, I thought I saw something. I was watching the sonar, trying to track our depth, when a flicker of movement caught my eye. It was just for a moment, a blip on the edge of the screen, but it was there. I adjusted the sensitivity, focused the scope, but there was nothing, just the usual static, the endless pulse of the ocean. But I know what I saw. It wasn't an enemy ship or a whale. It was something else, something that shouldn't be there. I stared at the screen for hours after that, waiting for it to appear again, but it never did. The voices, though, they've gotten louder. They're not just outside the submarine anymore. They're inside. I hear them in the walls, in the pipes, in the very structure of the vessel. It's like the submarine itself is speaking to me, groaning and shifting as if in pain. The others have noticed my behavior. They've started whispering, glancing at me with suspicion. They think I'm cracking under the pressure, that I'm losing it. Maybe I am. but they don't hear what I hear. They don't see what I see. Tonight, I had another dream. This one was worse than before. I was in the sonar room, just like always, but the submarine was empty. Everyone was gone, the lights were out, and the only sound was the relentless creaking of the hull. I tried to leave, but the doors wouldn't open. The walls started to close in, the metal twisting and warping around me. And then I heard it, the voice, louder than ever, clearer. It called my name just once, but it was enough. I woke up drenched in sweat, my heart pounding. The sonar was still pulsing, the same rhythmic beat, slow and heavy. But this time, the voice didn't fade when I woke. It's still there, whispering, growing louder. It's not just in my head anymore. We're sinking deeper. We're not going to make it out of here. And whatever is waiting for us down there, it's ready. It's been waiting for a long time. I can feel it now. The submarine is its prey. We are its prey. And we're almost there. The air down here is thick. Thick with tension. Thick with fear. Thick with something I can't name. We've been sinking for hours now, deeper than we've ever gone. The pressure is unbearable, not just on the submarine but on us. I can see it in the way the men move, in the way they glance at each other when they think no one's watching. No one says it out loud, but we all know. We're not getting out of here. And it's not just the pressure. It's something else. Something inside this submarine, lurking in the metal, in the wires, in the walls. I feel it every time the lights flicker. Every time the hull groans, like the ship itself is in pain. The sounds are louder now, more frequent. They reverberate through the air, crawling under my skin, wrapping themselves around my thoughts. The whispers are no longer confined to the sonar. They've spread. I hear them everywhere now, in the corridors, in the engine room, even in the mess hall. Sometimes I catch the others listening too. They'll stop mid-sentence, tilt their heads, as though straining to hear something just out of reach. But they never acknowledge it. They can't. Admitting it would mean admitting that something is terribly wrong. Last night, I saw Otto, the chief engineer, standing alone in the passageway outside my cabin. He was just standing there, staring at the bulkhead, as if he were waiting for something. I called his name, but he didn't respond, didn't even turn his head. He just kept staring at the wall, his face pale and drawn, his eyes wide and unblinking. After a minute, he turned and walked away without a word. I didn't follow him. I was too afraid. There's something in the eyes of the crew now, something hollow, like the life has been drained out of them. They're walking, talking, going through the motions, but I can tell their minds are elsewhere, lost in the deep, just like mine. I wonder how long it'll be before they stop pretending, before the panic sets in. As for me, I'm starting to lose track of time. I don't know how long we've been down here. Days, weeks. It doesn't matter anymore. I've stopped sleeping. Every time I close my eyes, I hear the voices. Sometimes they're calling my name. Other times they're just murmuring, a low, constant hum that burrows into my skull and refuses to leave. The worst part is, I'm starting to understand them. It's not language, not exactly, but there's meaning there. I don't know how I know, but I do. The sea is calling us. I don't tell anyone. I can't. They already think I'm losing it. I see the way they look at me, the sidelong glances, the muttered conversations behind my back. They think I'm paranoid. Maybe I am, but I'm not wrong. I know what I hear. The sonar screen has become my only comfort and my greatest torment. The green line pulses in its endless rhythm, hypnotic, calming in its repetition. But lately there's been something else, a new sound, faint but distinct, lurking just beneath the surface. I've tried to isolate it, but it's slippery, elusive. It comes and goes like a whisper carried on the wind, and it's getting louder. Last night, I thought I saw something again. Not on the screen this time, but reflected in the glass. A face. Pale, hollow-eyed, watching me from the darkness. It was only there for a moment, just a flicker, but I know what I saw. I turned, but the room was empty. Just the steady hum of the sonar and the faint creaking of the hull. I've stopped trusting my own reflection. Every time I catch a glimpse of it, in the glass of the sonar, in the mirrors of the sub, it's distorted, twisted, like someone else is staring back at me. Someone not quite human. The men are getting restless. There have been arguments, whispers of mutiny. No one wants to admit it, but the tension is palpable. The captain tries to maintain control, but I can see the cracks forming. The pressure is getting to him too. His hands shake when he thinks no one's looking. He barks orders more sharply now, his voice strained, like he's trying to convince himself as much as us that everything is fine. But it's not fine. We all know it. Earlier today, I caught Otto fiddling with the oxygen valves, muttering to himself under his breath. When I asked what he was doing, he didn't respond, just kept turning the valve, over and over, his fingers white-knuckled and trembling. I had to pull him away before he twisted it off entirely. He looked at me then, really looked at me. And for a moment, I thought I saw the same hollow look in his eyes that I'd seen in my reflection. "We're too deep," he whispered. "We're not supposed to be here." I didn't argue. I knew he was right. We're sinking. Not just the submarine. Us. Our minds. Our souls. Whatever's down here, it's found us. And it's not going to let us go. The lights have gone out for the last time. We're sitting in darkness now. The only light coming from the faint glow of emergency bulbs scattered throughout the sub. They pulse dimly, barely strong enough to fight back the shadows. It feels like a tomb. I think, in some ways, it already is. The oxygen is running low. We all know it. Every breath feels heavier than the last, thick and cloying, like breathing through water. The captain has stopped trying to reassure the crew. His voice has lost its authority, now just a hoarse whisper in the dark. He doesn't have the strength to keep lying anymore. None of us do. Otto hasn't left the engine room for hours. I think he's given up on the repairs. Last I saw him, he was sitting against the bulkhead, staring at the exposed wires and machinery, like a man staring into his own grave. He knows there's nothing left to fix. The engines are dead. We're sinking, and nothing can stop it. The sonar pulses slowly now, the rhythm sluggish, like a heartbeat that's dying. I sit in front of it, my headphones on, listening to the endless hum of the ocean outside. But there's something else now, a sound I can't explain. It's rhythmic, but irregular, like a slow, steady thumping, growing louder as we sink. At first I thought it was the pressure on the hull, but it's different, deeper, more deliberate, like a heartbeat, not ours, not human. I know I'm not the only one who hears it. The men avoid my gaze now. They won't speak to me, won't even look at me. I've become the one they fear, the one they blame for what's happening. They don't say it out loud, but I can feel it in the way they move, in the way they whisper when they think I'm not listening. But it's not me. I know it. It's the sea. It's the thing beneath us, the thing we've been drifting toward all this time. The voices are louder now. They don't leave me alone anymore. They're with me every second, in every breath, in every pulse of the sonar. I hear them when I'm awake, when I'm asleep. I don't know if I'm dreaming, or if I've finally lost my mind, but it doesn't matter. Reality has slipped away from me. The boundaries between what's real and what's imagined have blurred beyond recognition. Sometimes I think I hear the others, the crew, calling out to me. But when I look, there's no one there. Just the empty corridors, the flickering lights, and the low groan of the submarine as it sinks deeper and deeper into the abyss. Other times, I hear something else, something far more distant, yet far more powerful. The thumping has become a constant now. It's not just in the sonar anymore. I feel it in the walls, in the floor beneath my feet. The hull trembles with it, like the entire sub is being pulled toward something far below. The metal screams in protest, but it's no use. We're being dragged down into the depths where no human life belongs. I know what's waiting for us down there. I've always known. Yesterday, I thought I saw the captain staring at me from across the control room. His face was pale, his eyes sunken and lifeless. He didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there watching me. When I blinked, he was gone. I found him later, slumped in his quarters, a bottle of whiskey still clutched in his hand. His lips moved faintly, muttering something over and over. I leaned in close to hear, but I wish I hadn't. Deeper, he whispered. It wants us. Deeper. I don't know how much time we have left. Hours, maybe. Minutes. The pressure is unbearable now, the walls closing in around us, the air thick and choking. The men have started to panic. Some have retreated to their bunks, refusing to come out. Others have taken to pacing the corridors, eyes wide and hollow, like animals caught in a trap. As for me, I've accepted it. There's no escaping this. The sea has claimed us, and we're sinking into its embrace. Whatever is down there, it's been waiting for us all along. I hear it now, more clearly than ever, the rhythmic pulse of its heartbeat, growing louder, stronger as we descend. The voices are calling again, not from the sonar, but from the deep. They're closer now, clearer, almost human. Almost. We're not alone. It's so quiet now. I can hardly hear the others anymore. Their voices have faded into whispers, swallowed by the hum of the ocean outside. The lights have gone out completely, leaving me alone in the dark. But the dark isn't empty. It's alive with sound. The deep, rhythmic thump of something immense, something ancient. I feel it in my bones, in my blood. The sea has been calling us all along, and now we're here, at the edge of something no human was meant to see. The pressure doesn't bother me anymore. I've stopped feeling it. I've stopped feeling anything. I sit in front of the sonar, listening to the final pulses of the dying sub. The green line is barely moving now, just a faint blip every few seconds. But it's not random anymore. It's in sync with the sound outside, with the heartbeat. I understand now. We've become a part of it. I wish I could explain it better, but there are no words, only this feeling, this knowing that we've been drawn down here for a reason. We belong to the deep now. And I think maybe we always did. The voices are so clear now. They're telling me to let go, to rest. And so I will.